Okay, so in this video, I'm very appreciative. Somebody got in touch and they asked me, Jamie, what do you do when your confidence is broken, or when you're at rock bottom, and you're really struggling? And it's a topic. I've been there so many times. All of us, at some point in our life, find ourselves literally on the ground, in bits, and I wanted to share that as the very first point, because sometimes when we're in those kind of states, we think, we wonder why this has happened to us. And I think actually just accepting the naturalness of it can be a huge help in processing and moving yourself on. What I would encourage is that in these states of challenge and disease, the world will have us think that we need to pick ourselves up and be strong and get through it, but in actual fact, it's an enormous call to slow down. And so for wherever you're at and whatever's going on, actually giving into that for a little while and giving yourself space to just be down and to be low and to be out of sorts is important. Our bodies are magnificent and our souls are even better. And if we give them space, they'll act and they'll work away in behind us. So, sometimes when our confidence is low and we're out of sorts and we can barely even leave our house, it's actually a good idea to stay in. When we want to indulge in food, indulge, and really feed yourself and let your body work away in the background. That can be so key. In that time of slowing down, I'm if you've watched my channel, you'd hear me go on about journaling so much. And what I'd really encourage you to do is to start putting a bit of pen to paper and think about the situation that you're in, and think about all the events that perhaps have led to where you are right now, and what you can take from that are them in terms of learnings. Because oftentimes, we will instinctively want to see ourselves as the victim. And take ourselves out of the equation in terms of responsibility, and that really doesn't serve. Whereas when we actually start to look at things from the idea of, wait, how did I get here? What did I do that led me on this path? That can be hugely strengthening, because when we can identify the path that has led us to where we are, we can apply those learnings and make sure that we won't end up in the same place again. And with that brings a level of a level of confidence, and also an excitement and an energy, because we can see how we can perhaps do things differently, and that difference will create a different outcome. The next point that comes up for me is actually like a visualization exercise, and look, that's a fancy term, but what I really mean is just sit with yourselves, close your eyes, tune out of the external world to remember to come back into yourself, and take yourself on a little bit of a journey of your past wins. Now, when you are broken, when you're out of sorts, when you're really down, this is hard. We instinctively think negatively and conservatively. So day one, just try and find one time when you can reflect back on feeling really good, or when you did something that you were proud of, or where you won. Because sometimes we do need to remind ourselves of our triumphs. We do need to remind ourselves that we are better than this moment. And that's an exercise that you might have to do several times a day, and will no doubt grow in momentum as the more you do it. So the first time it might be really hard to remember a time that you won, or a time that was good, or that you felt proud. But as you progress, you'll find yourself actually able to cycle through numerous times. And that reminding ourselves of times when we have been up actually helps reconnect us with our more confident selves. And that is a really, really strong, strengthening practice that we need to remind ourselves to do in times of challenge, in times when we're out of sorts. I'm going to my list. I wrote notes before this. I really wanted to do justice to this video, because it's so important. When people are at rock bottom, so important that you can navigate your way out, because we all have gifts inside us, and we have a responsibility to share them. The world will get on top of you, circumstances will challenge you, and yeah, my encouragement is just please don't let them get on top of you too much, because you have gifts inside you that are of so much value, not just to you but to so many others around you, and it is so important that you learn to do whatever it is that you need to do to get out there and share those gifts. So the next step forward is to focus yourself on some small wins, and like giving you an idea of what a small win might be. A small win might be that you make your bed, you clean your room, you clean your clothes, you go for a walk, you clear your messages on your phone, whatever it might be. It might literally be that you just make your bed day one, and then you clean your room up a little bit more. But actually giving yourself a moment to think a day in advance and think, tomorrow I'm going to do this, and then doing it, regardless of how small, sets off a chain reaction. We are beings that are actually led by momentum. So what I mean by that is that when we're down, it's all the easier to go on a downward spiral. But if we can turn that energy and we can do one little thing that will positively impact us, it becomes easier to do another thing and another thing. And what I find when people apply this practice is that when they do one thing good for themselves and they give themselves the kind of the recognition of that, it becomes easier to do another and another. And pretty soon in time, this montage actually is playing out in my head of somebody, getting up one day and going for a walk, the next day going for a longer walk, the next day going for a longer walk, the next day going for perhaps a jog, until they're running laps around the block. We can turn our circumstances around, and you will. For whatever you're feeling right now, this is not come to be your end. Ultimately speaking, actually, you will progress forward from here. And this moment will stand to you. And in a year's time, you will come back to this moment, or you will remember this moment and think, that was a defining turning point in my life. I learned so much in that moment. I reorientated my foundation for life, and I am in a different world as a result. I really, really wish that for you. I'm a massive believer that when you are down, it's a beautiful time to volunteer. And that could be as simple as putting up on your Instagram, hey, I have some spare time. Would anybody like any help with anything? And the reason I kind of suggest such a blank kind of offering like that is that oftentimes we don't appreciate our skills. We don't appreciate our magic. Others around us do. And they can remind us of what we're good at. So when you put out a post like that, be surprised at who will get in touch. And you will be surprised at what they see in you. And sometimes actually all we need is a little opportunity to show ourselves off, to remind ourselves of how capable we are. And it's all the more reinforcing when there's somebody else there to thank you. But there's so many other opportunities. You could go to your local care home and offer your services. Or you might just see somebody on the side of the street and know that there's something that you can do for them. There's a great saying, the secret to living is giving, and it's so absolutely true. For anyone who has done anything for anyone else and not asked for anything in return, they would know that you get so much more than you can imagine in return. And that, again, can be a huge catalyst to lift your spirits. And then the next thing is to embrace difference, to trial and to experiment. When we look at our lives clearly, we do a lot of the same things over and over. And sometimes when we hit rock bottom, it can be an enormous motivator to do things differently. And so what I would encourage you is to trial and to experiment. And no doubt for wherever you are, even the idea of creating a little bit of a bucket list of like, what are some of the things that I want to do, but for some reason I haven't done. I've just been so caught up. Sometimes actually all we need is a little bit of excitement, and generally speaking, difference can be exciting. So I would encourage you to trial and to experiment and to follow a different path for a little while and just see what comes from it. You might find some things you love. You might find some things that actually were a complete disaster. That's fine. You'll learn more about yourself as a result, and you'll definitely bring a bit of fun and energy into your life. Now, these are just some of the things that came to mind for me, thinking about when somebody's lost their confidence and when they're out of sorts and what can they do. There are so many more things that you can do. Simply just literally Googling, what can I do if I'm out of sorts? What can I do to rebuild my confidence will bring up so many options. The real biggest message that I wanted to really note in this is that what you're going through is a normal part of life. Everyone goes through times like these. And these times are not there to get on top of you. They are there to, ultimately speaking, stand to you, to help you learn and to help you reorientate or reorganize yourself to be a stronger self going forward. To let go of some of the things that aren't serving us and create space for more that will. So please don't let this get on top of you. Please do, please do lean into the process of working through this. And no doubt in time, this will really bloody serve you well. If you're watching this and there's anything that you'd add that perhaps you've done in circumstances like this that you would recommend, please do leave them in the comments. If you use this video and it stands to you in time, please do come back and just share a little bit of your journey. I would love to hear it. And if you want to get in touch, I'm most active on Instagram. I'm just at Jamie White, so feel free to connect. And this video came off the back of somebody sending me a question. So if you've another subject that you'd love me to speak to, I am so happy to do that. And so please don't hesitate to share. Okay, I feel complete, and I look forward to sharing again with you soon.